What we're going to start with is just talking about, how we met a little bit. So we were in San Diego last weekend and we were kind of networking with a bunch of other fitness coaches. So tell me a little bit about, your experience on that trip and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh, that was the best weekend ever. We had so much fun. It was such an amazing experience being around so many like-minded people. The motivation and inspiration was just bursting from everybody. It was really cool.
Yeah, no, I totally agree too, honestly. Like starting this fitness journey for myself, I never would have imagined that there would have been so many people that could have gotten together in one spot that would have done that together. So being around everybody was really awesome for me and made me realize that, my personal goals could potentially align with a lot of people too. So, having met you and stuff like that, I really think that, what it is that we're looking to do is just going to be combine our two, definitions of fitness and show everybody that, the two different sides that we offer, can kind of combine and help them out. So, tell me a little bit about, what fitness is to you and how you got into this journey in general.
Yeah, so fitness to me honestly has become like my therapy. Honestly, I mean, I am such a advocate for therapy. I think that working on yourself, starting with your brain, is so important. Um, it's helped me become my best self, feeling more confident, feeling more aligned with who I want to be. Um, when you're feeling stressed, when your mood is low, when things are going on that you're not happy with, just going to the gym and having an outlet to just go expend that energy and get it out of your system and then continue on with your day. I think that that's such a powerful resource. So
Yeah.
I fell in love with it, and the mental health benefits that have come out of it have just been amazing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with a lot of what you said there. For me too, it's been very therapeutic. I was always a very active kid, having played soccer and stuff all my life. So then when I didn't do that, I really realized that I needed some form of physical activity. And that reminded me too. So, it's a good opportunity to kind of talk about your story getting into what it is that you specifically do now too a little bit. And then I'll go and we can kind of, talk about how those two things will line up. Because obviously two strangers ended up in San Diego together with a ton of other strangers doing the same thing. So we'll talk about that in a second.
I have a history of restriction and binging. Basically, would go to the opposite ends of the spectrum. Restriction until full depletion, and I couldn't do it anymore, and then binging until I felt so guilty that I went right back into restriction. So for me, getting into health and fitness and actually educating myself on the proper way to gain weight and lose weight so that it actually has a health benefit and it has intention behind it is so powerful, and it's so life changing when you come from a background of struggling with disordered eating patterns. So when we got to chatting at the retreat, and you started telling me about the journey that you did last year and everything that kind of came through with that, I was like, oh my goodness, like we have to collab somehow on this. So I think that it's really incredible what you're doing and how you're going to be able to show people that you can gain weight and you can lose weight. And it doesn't matter what point in your journey you're at, as long as you have an intention or someone to help teach you that intention throughout that journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. That literally just took me back to, so I'll explain a little bit more. So we were at a dinner and I showed her a TikTok. We were talking about TikTok, I think, or something like that, a
Yeah.
TikTok that I did last year. And then, you started telling me a little bit about your story there. And that's when we realized like our two stories could line up at some point, because the way that I usually approach fitness, I love the science of it, but I also love just kind of challenging myself to an extent where it's almost like I want to predict what's going to happen and then, like see how I feel at certain points. So actually that video that you were talking about last year, I'll tell the story again. Um, so what I did was, like I was saying, I liked soccer a lot as a kid, so I didn't end up going to school. So I didn't end up playing soccer, and then I really didn't know what to do. Kind of fell in love with the gym, started making some progress, and then I realized I need something to do. I'm like, this is something I enjoy. I'd always heard I should do something that I enjoy and try to make a job out of it. So I got a job as an in-person personal trainer, and my progress always stemmed from the fact that I was a pretty skinny kid. So gaining weight for me, gaining muscle was such a big win for me. But I realized that a lot of my clients initially wanted to lose body fat, and I couldn't resonate very well with them, because I hadn't. So I was like, okay, like I'm going to gain a lot of body fat on purpose, come up with this plan on how to lose it, show them they can do it, and go through it myself, and just kind of backing off what you said, the mental things that came along with that were what surprised me most, because I'd never been overweight before in my life. And then having done that on purpose was kind of like even though I'm doing this to myself on purpose, it's still very difficult to look in the mirror. I felt the low energy, it's harder to do functional things too. So then once I got to the point where I lost the weight, was in the best shape I'd ever been in, it was something that it was like, okay, like I've seen both ends of the spectrum. And honestly, like being skinny, I was insecure, being overweight, I was insecure. So, being able to resonate with a lot of people like that and hopefully help them through these processes is exactly why, I was so attracted to your style of coaching, just in terms of that, because it was something that I'd never really experienced before in that way.
Yeah, I think it's really cool like how aligned we are in such different ways. I, for one, would have with my past, I would have such a difficult time, thinking about doing it in that way, especially how not quickly because you do it properly, but like it's a big transformation from one end of the spectrum to the other in not that long. So it's pretty amazing that you are capable of doing that and that you have the like mental strength to go through it as well, not just the physical side. It's a big thing that you put yourself through.
Yeah, and that was something for me. So, it was an 11-week transformation, and really what I credit it to, other than genetics and that type of stuff, is really just the fact that the plan that I came up with, I was thinking about how I was going to do this for so long, because I honestly love training people, when I was doing it, because I got to, just hear their stories and realize literally what we're doing right now is like there's somebody in the world who has a story, they want to get to a certain point, and we're just looking to see how we can help each other. And I had the knowledge, and a lot of the time, they would share life experience and stuff with me, which actually in a way kind of drove me to do what we're both doing now, with our own businesses and pursuing our own coaching. So yeah, I think that we both line up well in that way, and that's exactly why I think that this is happening right now. So I just want to hear a little bit from you too, just about, what it actually means to you. Cause I do see the contrast, and it's very interesting to me how that lines up where, I wouldn't say it doesn't affect me as much, but almost like it was calculated in how I felt, versus, your own style of that, and, how that's going to match up when we look to do this now.
I think that that is actually like the perfect like difference between us because it's so polar opposite. So when I went through periods of doing what you are doing with a plan, I did it without meaning to. Well, I meant to, but I did it in a really like like unfocused like approach, It's I almost have a hard time explaining what it actually was because I was so out of myself. When I was doing that, the motivation behind it was how I was going to be perceived by other people, especially in the restriction phase of it. So I would go into restriction with the sole thought of how am I going to be perceived externally. And when I would go into the binging, I would like hide because I didn't want to be seen that way. So I found myself
Mhm.
in these different body types that I really struggled with. But none of that was ever planned out. I had no idea how to go into a deficit. I was just not eating.
Mhm.
And I didn't know how to bulk. I was just binging or like overeating.
Yeah.
So there's a massive difference between intention and doing it with like unintentionally. So I think that that is something that is going to be amazing not only for your clients, for my clients, for anybody that comes across this, but also for me too. I'm really excited to see how you go through this and how you navigate the struggles and the achievements and everything throughout. um, that was actually something I think you should share before any of this gets started. When you did this last time, you had a pretty crazy story about one of your like moments of realization or panic, or like, how do you, I don't know how to explain it, but you had one moment where you were just like,
Yeah, yeah. So well, honestly, like I've repressed that so much, even going through this logically was so last year when I was going through this too, I started to make content about this specific journey. And every week, I document things like my food, my mood, my workouts, how it was literally affecting my job and how I saw myself in the mirror when I was training, things like that. But what I did at the end of, each week was make a video. And then my plan was to use all those videos to make one big video at the end, kind of like a compilation of each week, really documenting the whole transformation. And even after I made the progress, I was confident in myself, more confident than I'd ever been, looked better than I'd ever been, literally just having felt the insecurity of being overweight for 10, 11 weeks. I deleted the whole video because I just didn't want people to see me like that. I literally got the opposite too, where I was like, I'm not lean enough now. Like this wasn't good enough. And looking back on it now, it was a great transformation. I was really proud of it. But in the moment, I spent all this time editing it and I just deleted the entire thing. And, this year is exactly, it has to be the opposite. I have to get over that. And that's exactly why I think having had somebody like yourself last year, I actually would have been able to, reason with myself and say that, no, I'm doing this to help people. And yeah, that was really the biggest moment for me, honestly, was the end and after.
yeah, it's so interesting hearing how logical you really are and how the emotion still overcame your logic. Like that is really something that will show so many people that they're normal, you know? Because I think so many people feel like they're the only ones to experience these struggles and feelings of wanting to hide and diminishing themselves because of their appearance, rather than understanding that you actually have control over it. You really can control it. You can create the body that you want. um Obviously, genetics and everything play a role in that, but you really can't, you have a lot more control than so many people actually understand. So it was really amazing for me this weekend seeing everybody that was there, that we all shared that mindset. We know that we can do one end or the other and we'll be fine.
Hmm.
And I love that we all are so motivated to like going and sharing that with people. And this journey specifically, I am so excited for, especially because I get to be the person to hold you accountable through it. And I'm not going to let you just throw your hands up and quit. And it really shows that having someone to support you makes such a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where last year, you made me think of this too when you were just speaking. Like last year, I planned everything food wise, calorie wise, training wise. But the one thing I didn't plan for as much as I should have was how I was going to feel. I knew how I expected to feel, but I actually never went a step beyond that and said, when I feel this way, I should do this, just like I would in training. If I stop losing weight, what should I do? Should I quit? Should I eat less? Should I, drop this, raise this, whatever it's going to be? I didn't plan that as well as I could have. And I think that at the end, I was so overwhelmed by not having a plan for that. It was really hard to, apply any logic to it because it was such a new thing for me. So this year having you, as the backbone of that plan on the mental side is going to be great just because that's what I was missing last year, even having had the plan to make the transformation, let alone if I hadn't even made it.
I think that's really, that's a heavy point that you just said, because problem solving, when it's action, when it's physical, we can physically go do something, we can actually make change, we can adjust physical tangible things to have difference, to adjust, to adapt to whatever. But when it's our mind, people forget that we still need to have coping mechanisms and plans for when we come into difficult moments and challenges that we don't expect, you know, if you are just like, Jesus, take the wheel, you're not going to respond well when you have unexpected things show up and it's tough, you know. But having that base of like foundation of stability in yourself, and well, as we go through this, kind of figuring out what that exactly is for you, because it's different for everybody, that will be really amazing, and that really does make the difference in the long haul of whether you're going to actually stick with your plan and get to the end of this, and or if you quit, you know.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. It's just as mental as it is physical, and that's what I learned
mhm.
last year. I would say not necessarily the hard way, but in a way that was unexpected, and it's honestly a little bit of regret that I ended up, deleting everything at the end and didn't go through with that just because, I think it could have helped a lot of people, and that has to be my reasoning this year too. It's just like that's why I have to go through with it because I don't want to have that regret twice, and that's why I think that we came together to do this.
That's another thing that is really crazy too, is the shame that comes from showing ourselves in a body type, especially one that we're not used to, with your history coming from being a smaller, leaner build, and then to that drastic change for you was probably something you never thought you'd ever experience. Um, but that is something that affects so many people, especially on their fitness journey. There's so many people that get started and don't want to take any pictures. They want to completely leave this person that they are in the past. They don't want, like, burn it, burn it. If there's any pictures, burn it. I don't ever want to see it or be reminded. But what's so powerful is the people that are strong mentally and know, okay, I look like this now, but I know that if I keep doing this, being consistent in the gym, being consistent with my food, taking care of my mental health, if I keep doing this, I'm never going to fail. And there really is no end goal either. That's something that I think is really important that people don't think of initially, especially when they look at people like us who are coaches in the fitness industry and we post these aesthetic things and whatever, but we're still not end goal. There's no end goal.
Hmm.
There really isn't an end goal. It moves, like we were just talking about. It moves as you progress because you see what you're capable of and you expect more from yourself, so your standards change as you go on. But as long as you start and don't stop, you're never going to fail.
Yeah. I love that. And that's something that I say, pretty consistently to a lot of my clients too, that I think you'll probably be able to relate to pretty well is, it's like you don't notice the incremental progress you make because your perception of that challenge is always so great. So as it recedes, I like the example of like, at first you meet someone and generally it's like, I don't know if I should eat, if I should starve myself, if I should only do cardio, if I should weight lift, if I should do both. And before you know it, 5, 6 weeks later, you're like, God damn it, I ate 199 grams of protein instead of 200 today. And they're almost more worried about that than, at first. And it's just the same thing. You don't realize and can't step back from your own person and say, like, I'm making progress. I'm healthy now. That's such a big thing is like, am I healthy? Looking a certain way. I've literally looked the best I ever looked last year. And my mental health wasn't paralleled to my physical health and just it didn't feel any good. I feel, I felt much better before just being at some median where both my mental and physical were, both parallel to each other.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. I tell all my clients it's an 80-20 split. 80% is your brain, 20% is your body. Because if your brain's not showing up, your body is definitely not showing up. Like, you can't drag your brain, but you can drag your body. You know what I mean? Like, there are definitely times I say where if you have a barrier, you can just like give yourself a little kick in the ass and be like, we can get this done. But even though it feels like that may be physical because you're physically tired or whatever, that's still in your brain.
Hmm.
It's still your brain telling you, I'm tired, I don't want to go. It would be more comfy to stay in bed,
Yeah.
or it would be comfier to just watch TV and hang out on the couch or whatever. But we don't grow in easy. We don't grow physically through easy, we don't grow mentally through easy either. And like Nick was talking about this weekend, we got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. We have to embrace the discomfort because so much good can come from being uncomfortable. That was probably one of the most powerful statements I took out of this weekend. And that's a way that I've actually been trying to practice my life for the last year or two.
Yeah, I love that. That's something that I love that concept kind of phrased in a different way for myself. So something that I've recently been big on too is like getting more favorable challenges. The idea that I'll never not have challenges that, I gave up that idea a long time ago because the second you realize like, okay, maybe everything could be fine, something happens and then everything.
Yeah.
It's more like I want my challenges to be a little bit better. And within fitness, it's like that too, where it's like, you know, I, I I'm losing weight, I'm gaining weight, whatever my goal might be, it's actually happening versus, I'd rather have a plan that says, this is what I need to do. So I need to find a way to actually battle my own mind and get myself to do it versus I don't even know what to do. Cause then that's much more of an excuse to ourselves to say, that's a whole nother step is learning versus executing too. And I'm excited to learn from you a lot of these mental things that'll, keep me accountable to everything this year too.
Yeah, it's really amazing actually, because I think we've talked about it. The I never ever pictured myself being a mindset person. Honestly, if you had talked to me about 5 years ago, I would have told you that this is all woo woo bullshit and none of it is real. But when you actually put stuff into practice and you see the benefits that it can have, it really can change you, and it can change your life. Just the simple idea of changing your thought about one thing, that can just have a domino effect of it impacting so many other areas of your life, which I think is really, really crazy. But something that people really need to understand with your mind too is it takes time. Just as much as it takes time to have physical transformation, it takes time to have a mental transformation too. um, I have been actively in my mental transformation for the last 4 years. Therapy, self-work, books, all of like just talking to people that upset me and figuring out why. Just figuring out where those like touch points are for
Mhm.
you, and then figuring out coping mechanisms or patterns that you can have in place to help you navigate through those. So this is really going to be something pretty amazing because honestly, majority of what I'm going to be talking with you about through this and things that I'm going to be focusing on with you mostly come from just experience of going through it. And that's what's really cool too, is in fitness as coaches, we're learning, we're adapting, we're figuring out where we belong,
Mhm.
and how we can best help our clients. So we are constantly putting ourselves in discomfort. We're constantly trying to figure out how we can mess things up so that we can fix it again, so that when other people mess things up, we already know what to do. So it's really cool to be able to do that on a mental health level too, instead of just physical. So I'm really excited to see how you go through this.
Yeah, I am too, honestly. And, I just want to make sure everybody can find you too. So, say your Instagram, let people know where they can find you and just, a little bit about, what they can expect to find from you too.
Yeah, so my Instagram and TikTok, those are the two main platforms I'm on. Both of them are Allie Waddell Fitness. It's not Waddle, it's Waddell, Waddell, my friends. um, I talk a lot about, just little tips on how to make your days better, how to push yourself through your workouts, how to push yourself through mental barriers. I share a lot of my struggle because that's life. Life isn't easy. There are definitely days where I wake up and I don't want to go. I don't want to be productive. I don't want to work. I don't want to work out. I don't want to talk to people. But we all experience that. So if you want to follow somebody that very openly shares their struggles and moments of discomfort, then I'm your girl. Yeah, basically just sharing how it feels to work through an eating disorder and come out on the other side and have a healthier relationship with food, more confidence, more energy, and more drive to just be a better person in every way.
Absolutely, that's great. I think that the last thing that I really want to say to everybody is I'm just super excited. I'm blessed to have found Allie and to have her as my coach to go through this, and I just can't wait to see. Even if we helped one person out of this, then it was worth it. That's exactly why we both do what we do. Realizing that there always will be challenges, but going through this together and showing you guys that literally the people that you think, it's our job to help other people achieve these things. We go through them ourselves. So it's okay to not feel okay, but we don't want you to stay there. We want to help you get out of that place into a place of, literally what she's going to teach me to do, be able to reason with myself and realize that, I am valuable and I can do these things no matter what.